After doing my first episode of Doors entities as SCPs, I honestly was not super confident that I'd be able to get a sequel out of this, because a lot of the entities that I haven't done are just like floating, distorted faces, or some of them don't even have visuals, like the guiding light. But with so many people enjoying that last video and asking me to do a sequel, I figured I could just take some creative liberties with some of them. So let's see how this goes. Doors entities as SCPs, part 2. Let's go! Hit like if you want, subscribe if you feel like, but either way, enjoy the show. Good evening, everyone. I am Professor Oakland, and it has been amply requested that I continue my lectures on subclassification SCP-R entities, which can be found in the recently rediscovered site r/d. This anomalous hotel is in the process of being classified as a Thaumiel class entity itself, but further research is needed as we are as of yet uncertain how the hotel manages to contain the entities within. I should also clarify that the definitions of our usual classification system are being slightly altered in regards to these entities. Technically speaking, they would all be classified as safe, because we currently believe they are unable to escape the containment they are held in. But, to study them, we must send field operatives into Site r/d, where many of the entities roam freely. This has proven dangerous and even lethal to some involved. So, in this instance, Safe, Euclid, and Keter will not refer to our ability to contain the entities safely, but to their threat level to those who must interact with them in the site. Now, without further delay, let us discuss item number SCP-R416. Object Class, Keter. Special Survival Procedures. R416 can, unfortunately, be found roaming around nearly any part of the hotel, though it has never been spotted in any rooms directly adjacent to the site entrance. Its approach is always telegraphed by a screech that sounds distorted by white noise. Personnel are to immediately hide in a closet, cabinet, or other room upon hearing the sound or risk lethal injury. Description: R416 is a phantasmal floating face, similar to some other entities found in Site r/d, but this one uniquely appears with a sideways mouth, inside of which are rows of jagged pale green teeth. It has blackened voids in place of eyes, and as it moves, a streak of green smoke can be seen billowing behind it. The entity also appears distorted in a way that resembles a corrupted video file, much akin to SCP-R410 as discussed in our previous lecture, which has been recorded and will be linked below for any who wish to return to it. Unfortunately, we are only aware of what R416 looks like because of a single field operative who has survived an attack from it. Interaction with this entity has proven lethal to all others who have failed to hide upon its approach. When it has commenced an ambush on our personnel, the entity will instantly approach and bite any human that it sees, and seems able to suck the life from them. Our sole surviving operative to encounter it has lost all mobility in her legs and left arm, though we hope to be able to assist her in recovering fully. While in hiding, our operatives seem to be safe from the entity, but must remain hidden until they are certain that it has moved on to another part of the site, as it has been known to rapidly circle back through a room in search of its prey. Next, we will discuss item number SCP-R422. Object Class, Keter. Special Survival Procedures. Like many of the previously discussed entities, R422 seems able to roam Site r/d freely, though it will not attack field operatives until they have traversed very deep into the hotel. If operatives begin to see large eyes coated in black slime appearing along the walls, it means they are approaching the entity and must be prepared to flee from it, as being caught will mean certain death. Description: R422 appears as a humanoid either covered in or made up of black amorphous slime. It has one large eye in the center of its head, which rarely has an expression that portrays a clear emotion. As said in the survival procedures, its appearance will be telegraphed in advance with eyes lining the walls and ceilings in the rooms approaching it, and once operatives do make it to the entity's location, it will appear from a puddle of black slime and then proceed to sprint after our operatives. It will chase them through usually 6 rooms before giving up its hunt for the time being, but as it follows there will be more hurdles to overcome. The entity seems to have telekinetic abilities which allow it to hurl furniture from its placement in front of our operatives to try and block their path. We believe this ability cannot be directly used on living beings, or else the entity would have no reason to chase after our personnel. It also seems to have pyrokinetic powers, as flames will erupt from the floors in front of our operatives while they are being hunted by R422. Again though, it is likely not an ability that can be used directly on a living being. Of course, it has also been theorized that R422 may simply enjoy the hunt, but at this point it is nothing more than a theory, as attempts to speak to the entity and learn if it has any conscious intentions have been fruitless thus far. The final obstacle will be that, in some cases, the entity has shown able to spawn large black arms from the walls ahead of its prey to try and grab them, or at least swat at them, to slow them down. As mentioned previously, being caught by this entity has proven in every case to be fatal. It allows the black slime from its body to slide across its victim into their mouths, ears, and nose, and quickly suffocates them and damages their brains and internal organs. While these chases could far more often be producing an elevated body count for our operatives, there has been one saving grace for any who have been chased by R422. An entity, which we will discuss next, produces a blue or teal light to appear ahead of those being chased by the entity to show a safe path for them to traverse through. It assists in other ways and scenarios as well, but we will discuss further in its entry next. Item number SCP-R423. Object Class: Safe. Special Survival Procedures: Inapplicable as this entity is exclusively helpful in nature, so far as we have concluded. Description: R423 has little in terms of appearance to the naked human eye, but will reveal blue or teal light at times to assist our operatives who have entered Site R/D. With that said, since discovering this entity, we have sent operatives in with specialized goggles that can observe different light and energetic spectrums, and we have been able to see at least one of the forms this entity takes on. It is an angelic glowing figure that looks partially humanoid female in nature. Its body below its waist seems to shift into an amorphous semi-translucent plasma. There are forms behind it that hover off its body and somewhat resemble wings. Because it is nearly imperceptible without specialized equipment, our initial operatives to enter the facility did not notice this entity, but we believe that it has tried to assist every set of agents we have sent into the hotel. It will ever so slightly illuminate important areas and doorways, leading us to previously unseen discoveries, and, as mentioned, will do what it can to help keep our operatives safe from the more dangerous entities roaming the site. The light it produces appears somewhat similar to that made by SCP-R431, the crucifix found in Site R/D discussed in the previous lecture. We do not know for certain that there is a connection between that item and R423, but it is highly speculated that there is one to be found. Along with its ability to cast light guiding our operatives, it can also produce a sound like quiet chimes to further help lead us to important locations or protection. One operative also swore to have heard it once utter the phrase, "Hey, listen," prompting him to then hear the whisper of entity R401 and take precautions to protect himself. But this operative had been through significant trials in the hotel that day, and his mental well-being, or lack thereof, at the time of this supposed event has not led us to trusting this to be accurate. Seeing as how we have been able to produce goggles with which to see R423, we are also now making attempts to devise a way to further communicate with it. If this is possible, seeing as how it has been very helpful thus far, we believe this entity could provide us with significantly more information about Site R/D, how it came about and why, as well as further illuminate us as to what all the entities inside can do and how they came to be. Hopefully, this entry will be significantly updated soon. Finally, for today, we will discuss an entity that is dangerous, but less so than the aforementioned Keter class entities of Site R/D. Item number SCP-R417. Object class: Euclid. Special survival procedures. Prior to entering any room of the hotel, personnel are to check the room numbers before and after the door they intend to open. If the door number is out of sequence, or if the numbers on previous doors suddenly appear scratched out or distorted, personnel are to avoid opening the next door. If they must open it, they are instructed to do so, then step quickly aside to avoid a potential strike from R417. Its assault is rarely lethal, but can still cause serious injury. Description: R417 can rarely be seen as more than a floating face, as it has only ever been briefly observed in blackened rooms lunging towards our personnel to strike before fleeing. Thankfully, using another setting of the goggles used to see R423, we have been able to see that the entity has a somewhat amorphous body that can shift into thick black smoke, allowing it to further blend into the darkness. The form it has been seen to take is semi-humanoid in nature, but with a large head, 4 eyes, with 2 being significantly larger than the others, and an extra set of arms spawning from its back. We do believe that this form can vary drastically. This entity is one of the more mischievous in the hotel and will replace the number plates on doors before hiding away in the rooms it has altered. It will then wait for one of those doors to be opened and strike the person who opened said door. Unfortunately, there is little else we can say about this entity as it disappears quite quickly after striking our operatives. We believe, like many other entities on the site, it can phase through walls, so that, paired with its impressive speed, means it is nearly impossible for us to follow after it when it has been spotted to attempt to learn more about it. I apologize for the lack of further information, but as always, these logs may be updated in the future. For the time being, however, that concludes today's lecture. Remember, all previous lectures on other subclassifications of SCPs have been recorded and are accessible for watching or rewatching. Links will be provided. But for now, thank you for your time, and good night. I ended up making Dupe kinda cute, didn't I? Wasn't exactly intentional, but I also don't mind it. And by the way, lots of people in the last video asked me to do a Bendy and the Ink Machine SCPs episode. I haven't done that before, but I have done Bendy and the Dark Revival as a fantasy story, which you definitely might enjoy if you've been enjoying this series. Or, you know, I've got tons of other SCPs in this series narrated by this same guy. Pokemon SCPs, Ben 10 SCPs, Lilo and Stitch Experiment SCPs. I'll link the whole playlist. Also, if you want the inks from this episode to color yourself, as well as high-res art a day before an episode comes out, and access to a bonus weekly podcast series where I talk about how I make my art and write my stories, you might want to consider supporting the PopCross Studios Patreon. But besides that, that's all for today, except of course for ending this video on some kind of positive or inspiring note. And today I'm going to do a quote from Tony Robbins, which is that you experience the part of life that you focus on. At any one point in your life, there's probably good things and bad things happening, but when you more regularly choose to focus on the positive things, you're just going to live a more positive and happy life. Hope that's inspiring. I love you all, and I'll see you all in the next episode on Friday. Goodbye.